Welcome to Turning Hard Times to Good Times. I'm your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm really pleased to tell you that I have Kjirstin Breure with me. She's the president and CEO of Hydrograph Clean Power. The second time that Kjirstin's been on, Kjirstin, I should say. It's Kjirstin Breure, not Christine, Kjirstin Breure, excuse me. Second time that she's been with us, and the reason I wanted to have her on so soon again is because I just had to do a double take on the economics as I understood them. Wanted to make sure that I had it right because they were so compelling, and it was because of that Hydrograph Clean Power is now my top pick in my personal retirement account. So I just wanted to make sure it was right, and if it is right, then I want the world to know about it. So welcome, Kjirstin. Thank you for joining me again.
And thanks for having me, Jay.
Really a pleasure, and I know you're an extremely busy person, so it's really appreciated that you take a few minutes and talk with us today. So going to the economics, Hydrograph, of course, is the only company that can produce this pristine graphene, and we've talked about that in a previous when you were on the first time with us, so I don't want to spend a lot of time with that, but just basically to reiterate the economics of your model. And they seem extremely compelling. Let me just go over some of the parameters as I understand them, and you can tell me if I've got it right. Your hydrograph units can produce around 10 tons a year of pure graphene. They cost less than considerably less, I think I heard you say, than $500,000 each. The price that you expect to be able to get for the graphene ranges from the low end of 250,000 per ton, 250,000 US dollars per ton, to just under $1 million per ton. Mm-hmm. You mentioned also that there are 6 or 7 of the 50 companies that you're having discussions with would require upwards to 1,000 tons per year. So that sort of boggles my mind in terms of the arithmetic here. At 250,000 to 1 million, 6 or 7 companies. I mean, goodness sakes, that's a big number for a company with a 22-cent stock right now over the counter, where I purchased in New York for my account. I think you mentioned operating margins conservatively at 60%, which is also just, I mean, you put all that together, mm-hmm. and this looks like an incredibly compelling story, and yet the market obviously doesn't understand it or doesn't believe it or needs to see it to believe it. Mm-hmm. Whatever the case is, if this is really real, then I want all of my viewers, all of my listeners to know about it. So do I have that more or less right?
You do. And I do believe as well that the market needs to see it to believe it, which I think is completely understandable. And just to reinforce, I think some people, especially if they're new to the story, they think, well, why are you not already selling that much? But when you're commercializing a new material, again, you not only need robust data sets to convince the customer, but these are longer development cycles. There's a lot of different stages of testing that go in, perhaps regulatory approval. So the average development cycle is about 18 months. And I just also want to reinforce that to get to that 1,000 metric tons of annual consumption of graphene, that would be a ramp up over a period of years, likely right. 3 or 4 years for the average customer. So again, the economic profile is very compelling, and the ultimate opportunity is huge. But again, it does take that time. And I think for a patient investor, it's a great story.
Yeah, it's going to take time. Okay, thanks. That helps a little bit, because we can't just push a button tomorrow. You're a $250 billion sales company or something. It's going to take some time. How long does it take to build these units, these graphene units?
Only 2 to 3 months. And so we are in the stage now of scaling that up. And because a number of these longer development cycles are about to come to completion in the next year or two, we should start to see a huge uptick in really a lot of these contracts moving forward. So I think this time specifically, I know a number of people have been watching the story for a while, but this is really the year to look at, or I would say the next 2 years.
So maybe I'll ask you the question I had in mind towards the end of our discussion. Catalyst, I guess, would be announcements of contracts. Probably that's what we have to look forward to.
Yes, and I would also add to that that we will be announcing a large scale facility in a location within the US. And I do believe that that announcement, because we are seeking acetylene pipeline access,
Mhm.
that will be a very big green flag to customers all over the world that really can prove then that Hydrograph, at least theoretically, has unlimited production capacity, because then the only bottleneck would be the speed in which we can produce the reactors.
Yeah, well, it's okay. Well, it certainly this is the year, though. You say people have been watching. I know the nuclear engineer that turned me onto this story thinks has been following you for 4 years, and
Mhm.
he could have told me about it sooner, but he must have felt that this was the year that he wanted me to start paying attention to it. So, all right. So I'd like to shift gears a little bit and ask you about a news release that you put out on this past Tuesday. Hydrograph and NEI Corporation announced a new line of graphene dispersions. Tell us about first of all, what are graphene dispersions? What does it
I
mean?
think this
You know,
Right. I think this is an important thing to clarify because graphene has all of these superlative qualities, the strongest, most conductive material ever discovered, and you can use it for so many things, but sometimes initially it's harder to figure out how to use. So we have this very fluffy powder, and in really simple terms, we don't want it to stick together too much because it gets clumpy inside of whether it's a battery or resin. We want all of the graphene flakes to be very well dispersed, and that's going to lead to either a better material or improve the conductivity when we're looking at a battery. So making sure that the graphene gets separated and that it's a stable dispersion, so it's consistently produced,
mhm.
it's really key. So sometimes you have to mix it a lot to get that. And really, what we're doing with this partnership with NEI, and we're very happy to work with NEI because they're a very reputable player in the battery space, is
Mhm.
they're basically taking that step out. So because they've already made the dispersion, so this is a liquid product that then the customer can just basically an off the shelf product, immediately integrate it into their product line. And then there's going to be no issue with them having to figure out how to work with graphene, because Hydrograph really wants to do all of that more difficult work to figure out, because again, it's this fantastic material, but you need to know the processing tweaks just because it's new. So this is one of those processing tweaks. They figured out how to get the right dispersion, and then they can sell it to customers, and it's really ready to go, effectively a drop-in solution. And because we have such strong data to improve the conductivity, the capacity, the life of batteries, we're very excited about this because I think this could be a huge catalyst for numerous companies to start working with our graphene within their product lines.
Let's see. Okay, so NEI engineered the dispersion. That wasn't something you did. You're providing the graphene that they need for that dispersion.
We've done this jointly. So this is
Uh-huh.
also with the advice of our scientists, because of course the hydrograph scientists have a lot of experience working with our specific graphene. So this was done jointly. But again, of course, they are contributing heavily to the production of it.
These so these graphene dispersions could be used for things other than batteries that NEI might be involved with. I think they might be in doing things other than with batteries. Is that right?
I believe they also produce functional coating. So
Coatings,
the
right?
intent of this product line is, to my knowledge, more for energy storage. But I do believe, because it's a highly conductive, highly pure dispersion, there would be other uses that would be possible as well.
Yeah. So do you see then NEI Corporation as a client of yours, or I mean, you would work through them, they with them, and then they have clients that your products would end up in? Uh,
Exactly. We
Yeah.
look to partner with groups wherever possible. And as I've mentioned on previous podcasts, we're really focused on composites. And because this is now moving to energy storage, the more we can create these partnerships, it really allows us to move much faster than we would be able to move if we did this completely on our own. And so they're, in a sense, kind of a middleman here. They have customers that they engage with. And this is really ideal for Hydrograph because they've of course put the work into producing the product line, and we can immediately then bring it to market together, and through their network we can of course grow our customer list.
Yeah, terrific. All right. So I saw some terminology, to me as a layperson didn't mean a whole lot. It said the news release talks about turbostratic arrangement and an average of 6 graphene layers per particle.
Mhm.
and that structure enhances conductivity, in rate capability, and increased energy density. Could you talk a little bit about what those things mean for
Sure.
battery
So I'm
performance?
really happy you brought this up because I think this is a tricky concept to understand. So turbostratic graphene is specifically what we produce, and there are a few other companies that do claim to produce the same, but ours is very unique because again, it's 100% crystalline and it's 100% sp2 bonded. Sp2 bonded is really just the technical term for what constitutes graphene. So
Mhm.
when I'm saying that, I do believe we're the only company that is 100% pristine graphene. But turbostratic, that is because we have the explosion synthesis process. So if you
Oh,
imagine we pump these gases and then we ignite the gases with a spark,
mm,
that explosion causes these gaps, I guess, between the graphene layers. So even though the average layer count in our graphene is 6, because it's turbostratic, they're not tightly bound together. So that means it functions actually more like monolayer graphene, which
mm.
is the highest quality and highest performing. So this is it's very unique that we have this, and that really strongly contributes to the conductivity gains that we and of course our mechanical performance.
Do you have any, have they shared with you the boost in performance, battery performance that, or is this still something that's being tested?
We will be releasing more data on that.
You'll be releasing more data. How soon?
I have to check in with our team, but I do believe
Okay.
that it will be quite soon.
Wow. Okay. Maybe that's another catalyst that people should be watching out for then. All right. Well, this is what are some of the other industries? I mean, batteries, I think, has a longer cycle. I think you explained before than some of the other applications that your graphene may be used in. Could you share with us some of the other industries that you might be talking with that might actually come to market sooner than batteries?
Yes, and I think this is a good distinction. So when I talk about longer sales cycles or development cycles with batteries, that's if Hydrograph does the work. So if we start to produce our own graphene battery, it is
Oh,
a longer development cycle, but this is a way to shorten that. And that's why we're so interested in this dispersion with NEI, because we can just sell it immediately to a battery company and it's effectively already a solution. So they don't need to really do much, if not any work on their end. And that's going to be a great way to really move commercialization forward much faster. And I would maybe take a moment to point out this is very similar to within the plastics industry, us working with compounders. So we have a compounder program where we work with certain compounders, and the compounder effectively takes our graphene and does the dispersion, but for plastics. So they have their process and then they can sell plastic pellets or plastics in another form already with our graphene, which is called a master batch. And then they can sell that to plastics producers. And then basically they have that solution ready to go. So they don't need to figure out how to put the graphene into the plastic. The compounder already did that. And then they can use, how much or little as they like because it's a concentrated form. So that's a great way to really accelerate the plastics. This is
uh-huh.
a great way to accelerate the battery industry, and we will continue to find these opportunities where we can really grow that connection with customers much faster.
It's wide open, it seems to me. And my friend Bob Moriarty, who's the next guest on today's podcast, he's just extremely excited about what you're doing and would very much like to share what you've just shared with us to his audience at 321 Gold. So I'm really happy. So you mentioned something about the auto industry. I think you're working with someone, a major auto manufacturer, perhaps, and we might get some news on that this year, possibly.
Yes, I do believe so. So auto industries are not known for moving very fast. So even though we've been told things would happen a little faster than they have, this is not atypical. But we are expecting a larger purchase order, and we do believe that this will be converted into a contract either by the end of this year or by next. And that one's very exciting because it's not only very, very high volumes, but this is just a reputable brand for us to be working with. So internally, we're extremely excited. And I think I actually missed answering your earlier question, what were some of the other big
Yeah.
movers we're going
right.
to be seeing. And I'll go back and reinforce that I really do think that it's these engineering fibers. We see a huge amount of interest for these highly engineered products. And
Hmm.
this would be both from chemical companies, military adjacent
Hmm.
applications because it can be used for ballistic protection, aerospace components, and
Wow.
really a lot more. And this is something that we feel we really excel in. And I think that because this is such a difficult area for companies to work in, and because we're doing it very well, I think that there's going to be a huge amount of growth. And luckily, this one can move a lot faster than some of the other areas.
So your company is in touch with the U.S. military, possibly?
We are, and that's non-confidential. So we've been working with the US military through different departments for quite some
Sure,
time now.
sure, sure. Wow, it's just an incredible story, and I'm so glad that you had a few minutes. Anything else you maybe want to wind up with? Any parting thoughts?
No, I think we've really covered, I think, the important components here. And again, we're going to have a number of catalysts this year, the announcement of our large scale facility. And I do think that that will give customers a lot more confidence that we're going to be able to deliver these really massive volumes of graphene in relatively short order. So I'm extremely excited to have these changes come through.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Kirsten, for spending the time with us. This is a fantastic story. I'm really privileged to learn to know you, to meet up with you, to thank you so much for joining me in Toronto as well. And I wish you all the best. We'll certainly be watching, me and my subscribers and the people that follow me on my podcast as well. So thank you so much for being with us once again.
Thank you, Jay, and thanks again for your support.